We're two members of Climate Assembly Nottingham. We're an independent voluntary group and we're hoping to create a better future for Nottingham by bringing people of all ages and backgrounds together to have democratic conversations about our city.
So we're aiming to support Nottingham City's tremendous ambition for us all to be carbon neutral by 2028. One method we're thinking about is to have a citizens' assembly, which would give this city a picture of everyone's views, absolutely everyone's views and ideas about how to respond to the climate emergency.
So we're a very new group, but we've got big ambitions. Whatever your age or background, we'd love to hear from you. Do please join in the conversation this evening. Thanks for being here.
And if you'd like to be involved, or if you'd simply like to know more about us, we would just love to hear from you. Okay, so we'll put something on the chat by way of contact details. I'm not quite sure whether that's going to be me or Rosanna or how it's going to happen, but by the end of this meeting, there will be something on the chat. But we would love to
ask Millie to do that.
So over to the next speaker now.
Lovely, thank you both. And yes, for the Green Hustle Watchers benefit and for anyone else, you can find the Climate Assembly Nottingham group on Facebook for now. Lovely. So I'm going to introduce Lucy Brown, who is our facilitation expert. Lucy, are you there? Testing.
Hello. Hi, hello. Is that all working?
Yeah.
Hello. So, hi, I'm Lucy, and I've been organising, helping organise how this has all been coming together. And I just thought I'd tell you a little bit about kind of how this is going to work. So there are going to be speakers and then going to break out into facilitation spaces. And so I just wanted to tell you that those are going to be several spaces that you'll be put in at random to then discuss the topics that you then heard. And that's a chance for you to, in a small group, then discuss and aim to answer one of three questions. So if the question is one of three topics. So one topic is around community and people, the other is environment, and the other is business. So for community and people, it's how can the Broadmarsh area be sustainably put to best use for Nottingham's diverse communities. The environment is how can Broadmarsh area sustainably support and encourage a thriving natural environment in Nottingham. And then for business, how can the Broadmarsh area sustainably support Nottingham's business community and wider economic. And so that is a point for you all to share your opinions and discuss and try and reach some end goal or consensus, or just explore different opinions on these topics. And so this is an open space for you to be able to respect each other's opinions. And that is going to be happening after you've heard the speakers. So have a think about when the speakers are talking, reflect on the different ideas that you might be thinking and how you can share that later.
Fantastic, thank you, Lucy. So I'm going to start introducing our speakers right away, and I'd just like to say a huge thank you to all of our speakers for joining us. We have an incredible lineup, and are very, very pleased to have you all here. So thank you very much. The first speaker that we will have for you this evening is Councillor Sally Longford. Councillor Sally Longford is the Deputy Leader of Nottingham City Council. She holds the portfolio for the environment, energy and democratic services. So really probably couldn't have a more ideal person representing Nottingham City Council. Thank you very much, Sally. She was born in Nottingham and has lived here all of her life. She used to work at John Players and before having a family, and then she went into education and was a school governor, and went into politics quite late. So really interesting story and proper knots. So thank you, Sally, and thank you for your contributions all day. Please go ahead.
Thank you. I like being called proper knots. That's great. So thanks very much for inviting me to speak today. I think it's a great opportunity for lots of ideas to come together to think about how we can take the Broadmarsh forward. So thanks everybody who's here, taking the time out of the weekend to be here this evening. And I hope you've been attracted to the event because you think that the Broadmarsh is a great opportunity for the city and gives us an opportunity to bring forward new ideas about what can happen in the centre of our great city. So it's a large and complex site in the centre of the city, close to the castle, which will be reopening in the spring. And it's at the southern gateway of the city where visitors to the city will head in that direction. And it'll be a showcase for the city of the future. And it will hopefully provide opportunities for future generations. We need new sustainable types of work and opportunities for young people and for future generations. As you all know, I'm sure we've got an urgent need to change. This is a global issue. Climate change is happening, and it's never been more important to think about that old adage, think global, act local. We can't rely on the higher powers in the country or internationally to take the initiative because they've let us down on numerous occasions. And we need decisive action. And I think at the moment we're in the most dangerous times we've been in during my lifetime, both environmentally and politically. So time is short and we need to press ahead. Nottingham City Council is leading Nottingham towards the goal of carbon neutrality by 2028. And we're well placed to do that because over many years we've had a policy of moving towards a reduction in our carbon emissions, and we've already reduced the emissions by 41% since 2005. And we know the reason for doing that is not just about reducing our emissions and contributing to the global effort, but it's also because it will make the city a better place to live. It will be a healthier city with good opportunities for employment in the green economy, and hopefully people will be less exposed to the risks of the impacts of warming. Our detailed action plan is on the City Council website, and I do hope people will have a good look at it because I believe it's a very good document which has been improved significantly by contributions during the consultation period of almost 1,000 people's voices, and it has changed significantly since the draft. There are sections on carbon reduction through transport, the built environment, energy generation, waste and water and consumption, but also a section on carbon removal, which looks at offsetting emissions from hard to reduce sources by sustainable land management and tree planting. There's a section on resilience and adaptation, which focuses on making the city and the citizens less vulnerable to the impacts of our changing climate and more extreme weather events. And then there's a section on ecology and biodiversity, which was added following the consultation to ensure that we tackle the ecological emergency alongside the climate emergency. So I'm delighted, excuse me, that our universities are committed already to supporting us in our 2028 mission. And we're getting increasing commitment from local businesses, voluntary groups, and all sorts of organisations. But this has to include everyone in the city, and the Climate Assembly is a really welcome way of developing those links. All of us in the city who understand the risks have a responsibility to take the action for ourselves, our families, our friends and our communities. We have to take the initiative, and that's why I'm pushing with all my might to turn this place into the first carbon neutral city in the country. And I want everyone here to pledge to do their bit, to look critically at the way they live, the choices they make, the reckless behaviours that they may see in others, and try to move towards a better, more sustainable way of living. We all need to be challenging in all the places we frequent, our schools, universities, workplaces, shops, pubs, restaurants, wherever we go. we need to be pushing people to think about sustainability in everything we do. We know that lots of people have signed up to the need to take urgent action, but there are also people who are struggling financially, or they're in difficult circumstances, and they have to make difficult choices every day. But we have to get people on board, and that's where things like the Climate Assembly, Extinction Rebellion, and other campaigning organisations can help to listen to those people and to get engagement, because there are simple and cheap choices that everybody can make, whether they're young or old or rich or poor, and everybody can make a contribution while also improving our environment. We must spread the word, and we must support our citizens to make those choices. We had intent to spend this summer at lots of events, spreading the word to anyone who would listen anywhere in the city. But of course, because of the COVID crisis, all those events were cancelled. And so we've taken some action online. You may have heard about the 28-day challenge, and which was very successful, and involved a lot of different groups, partner organisations. I can see Sarah from the who did her bit about reducing single-use plastics, and there were lots of other organisations who talked about recycling and waste reduction and reducing energy use and all sorts of sustainable ways of life. And we had very positive feedback from that. And I think the strength of it was that it involved organisations who are not necessarily usually part of green movements. For example, the NHS, Nottingham Contemporary, and Nottingham Forest. Have I run out of time?
Thank you, Sally. Yes, you got the signal. Yes,
I didn't even get to the Broadmarsh. Can I just have one more second?
Go on then. Yes, please. You can have another minute.
Okay, so I think the opportunity presented by the Broadmarsh vacant site and the interest it's aroused in the city is a great way to weave conversations about the climate emergency into our discussions, because whatever happens at the Broadmarsh has to contribute to the carbon neutral goal. And all the conversations about the future must be had in that context. So if you've got any ideas about how we can do this and engage more people, then I think it will be a really successful evening. Thank you.
Thank you. Hopefully my sound is back in now, and apologies for hurrying you, Sally. Yes, 8 minutes flies by, so everyone's just got 8 minutes to talk. I'm going to do a very speedy intro to our next speaker, who has been with us a few times today, and whose organisation, Nottingham's Wildlife Trust, that he leads as CEO, have been a huge help today. I'd strongly advise checking out all the work that we've been doing with them. He's another Nottingham lad growing up in Mansfield. He was inspired for his love of the natural world, exploring the narrow lanes and fields near his home. And so we'd love to hear from you, Paul, about your take on reimagining Broadmarsh.
Great, thanks Adam, and hi everyone. It's fantastic to see 40 odd people coming together on a Saturday night to talk about the climate. That's pretty amazing. As Adam said, I'm from the Nottinghamshire Wildlife Trust, and I'm just really going to paint a bit of a picture about where we're at in terms of the state of the natural world and where the Broadmarsh can play an important part in hopefully turning decline into recovery. So Sally mentioned it, actually, we are facing a climate and an ecological crisis. Believe it or not, the UK is one of the most nature depleted countries in the world. We've massively impacted on our ecosystems, on our habitats and species over many decades, which means that we've got an awful long way to go to reverse that decline and turn decline into recovery. But we've got some hope in all of that, and I think Sally touched on the COVID crisis, and I think what we discovered during that time is that so many people from all walks of life discovered nature and discovered contact with nature and the benefits that gives in terms of health and well-being, how people kind of relaxed and found solace in the natural world during the coronavirus pandemic. We saw a massive upswing in people contacting us about where to go, what to see, and really kind of we were encouraging people to obviously stay local and explore the local green spaces on their doorstep. And we saw a massive increase. And I think that shouldn't be surprising, really, because we are part of nature. Human beings are part of the natural world. We evolved in nature, we're part of nature, and we need it in our daily lives. And many people, in fact, the poorest in our societies, are deprived, are the most deprived of nature. Fewer green spaces, fewer places to go and seek out wildlife. So we've got this fundamental connection as human beings with nature, and we need it, particularly in our cities and urban areas, which are very often grey and concrete. We need more nature in our cities. It's not just something we need in the wider countryside, which we desperately do, but actually nature needs to be has to have space for wildlife from the centre of the city all the way through out into the wider countryside. So from our perspective, the whole notion of nature's recovery has got to be about making more space for nature. We've squeezed wildlife out of so many places and lost so much habitat over the years that we've got to take every single opportunity presented to us to put that wildlife back on the map. So from our perspective, it's about thinking about the Broadmarsh, is trying to reimagine that. Take Central Park in New York, take other major cities that have green space at the heart. Why can't we have a wild heart at the centre of Nottingham? Why not? We don't need more office space. We've got tons of office space. After COVID, people are going to be working more from home. We don't need a shed load of office space. We don't need more places to buy shoes and to consume more or other products. We don't necessarily need another cinema either, because with COVID and social distancing, is that even going to work? Are we even going to be able to sit next to each other in cinemas, etc.? So we've got plenty of that, and we don't need really anymore. And we've got an amazing, almost blank canvas in the heart of the city that could be an incredible, diverse, wonderful, thriving, green heart at the centre of our amazing city. So thousands of people have already signed a petition to talk about a pop-up park, but I think we need to be even bolder. We need to turn the whole of that Broadmarsh Centre into a green, wonderful oasis that's not only amazing for wildlife, but also for communities, for people to come together in socially distanced ways to talk about how the role of that kind of wild heart at the centre of the city can play in urban cooling, in helping to kind of cool the city down, to remove particulates from the air. We're talking about a massive opportunity for a natural space in the heart of Nottingham to play an amazing role in bringing communities together, improving our health and well-being, benefiting wildlife, and really being a true green city. We can't be a green city if we keep pouring grey concrete everywhere and concreting over our green spaces. So if we want to be a green city, then let's put something really green at the heart of it. So thank you very much.
Hello, yeah, thank you, Paul Wilkinson, and yeah, again, thanks for all of your help today. I'm going to move quickly into the next one. I feel that Nadia Whittome needs little introduction, and we already had a lovely chat earlier, so I'm going to be quiet and I'm going to let Nadia give her input on this one. Thank you for joining us, Nadia.
Thanks so much. Yeah, I'm back. Should I look at the screen or look at
the camera, please?
Okay. Probably should have gone through these things before we started running, shouldn't we?
You're very busy, but yeah, I'm afraid no more prompts for me because you've got your 8 minutes. This is your.
Okay. All right. It's great to be here, and thank you very much to Green Hustle, to all of the team. There are loads of people behind the scenes here, all socially distanced, and helping to keep the day running over smoothly. I think it's really important that we have this conversation about what happens to our city. And I think COVID and, in a sense, the economic downturn that has come with COVID has, in this instance, presented us with an opportunity to reimagine our city, to rebuild our city, and actually to look at urban planning very differently. I think that we've often, and I don't mean in Nottingham, but in society in general, not just in the UK, but across the world really, have done urban planning in quite a top-down way. But I think that the reason why today's discussion is so important is that it's thinking about how civil society can have a greater input into what our city looks like and what the world around us looks like. And that's really important for making sure that we're empowered and that we feel heard and listened to. So I wanted to speak a little bit about the wider context of this. I'm, of course, the Member of Parliament for Nottingham East, and although the Broadmarsh Centre is not in my constituency, I represent the other side of town. Of course, everyone in the city of Nottingham uses the city centre, and everyone is going to be impacted by how this develops. So I've met with the Nottingham Project, Greg Nugent and his team, to talk about what their plans for the Broadmarsh are, and they've told me that they've received proposals from hundreds of people, really detailed proposals that people have been sitting on for years. Some incredible imaginative and forward-thinking visions have come forward. And I see my role really as being to listen to all of my constituents, to listen to interest groups and people on this call, people like Paul, working with the City Council, working with Extinction Rebellion and other innovative startups that are cropping up across the city, so that we decide together what the future of the Broadmarsh is. Now, thinking a little bit about the wider context of this, we know, of course, that we're set for a massive recession. It's a recession that will probably dwarf 2008. The jobs crisis that we're facing is massive. It's something that I've never experienced in my lifetime, and actually potentially is going to be greater than any of us have faced in our lifetimes. And that's why it's important that a Green New Deal is championed by the government, and that Nottingham gets its fair share of that Green New Deal. And I mean not what Boris Johnson is proposing at the moment, but something that is genuinely transformative, that decarbonises, but also looks at our natural environment and biodiversity, as well as creating the hundreds of thousands of well-paid green jobs that we need for the future. So I'm absolutely committed to listening to everyone on this call, to working with you so that we can deliver what our city deserves within the very difficult confines of the enormous cuts that have been meted out to our city council over the last 10 years. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you so much, Nadia, and yeah, real pleasure to have you with us today. It must be a busy schedule that you have keeping tabs on our government.
Sorry, I was being told that the donuts have arrived. That's distracted.
And so we're going to hear next from Lucy Brown, who's just going to tee us up. We're going to go into the breakout rooms in just a moment for all those on the call. Lucy's going to have a quick word about that, and that's relevant to those people in the call, and then we'll talk to you about what we're going to be doing with the Green Hustle side and the public side of it.
Great, thank you. So as I mentioned before, those were some really great talks, and I'm sure actually, and as I've seen, there are lots of questions and things to discuss on those three topics I mentioned before. I'm not in charge of the logistics of it, so I'm sure it's going to happen like magic. And we're going to go into breakout spaces randomly allocated into community and people, environment and business. So I want to just let you know that there'll be a note taker in that room who will be making notes on everything that's said. And there'll also be a facilitator. And so that facilitator in that room has control to encourage discussion. But if you could respect each other and respect the facilitator, the facilitator there is there to ensure that you respect each other and each other's opinions, and it's a space for all opinions to be respected and discussed, as this is going to be a intense topic that I think people have a lot of opinions about. So please be prepared to listen to others and respect others as they will respect you. So I think that's kind of pretty much all that I was going to say on that topic. So I think we're ready to go into the breakout rooms, unless there's any other questions in the chat about the logistics of how it will work.
Fantastic. I'm not keeping an eye on the chat, but assuming that everything is good to go, I think we're about to roll into the breakout groups. So those in the call, you should have a little notice coming up on your screen. Hit the button to join the breakout group, I believe, if it's there, or you'll be getting put in those breakout groups as we speak. So you'll be leaving the room. So everyone's going to their breakout groups. And hello, Green Hustle. We're back in the festival world now. We can just like relax a little bit. Everyone's going to go and have their conversations in the breakout groups. And then, so that's 20 minutes. And then they're going to come back and feedback on what's going on. Now, you will be back on the Zoom call screen in a second. And what we're going to do is hear from Laura Alvarez, who, as I say, very excited to hear what she's got to present, because she's going to be talking about some of the engagement that that Nottingham City Council are already doing or have already done, piloting the engagement plan that they've got around schools. So we're going to be hearing from some of the youth of today about what's going on. Can we just check if Laura is in, please? You get Laura on. Yeah, Laura, can you?
No, can you hear me?
I hear you. Yeah, and we should be able to see
okay.
you.
Yes. Okay.
They're just organising the breakout groups, and yes, you're back in. So you're now speaking to Green Hustle Festival. Welcome to Green Hustle Festival, Laura. Thank you so much. I know you're very well studied in your field. Yes, as I say, Senior Principal Urban Design and Conservation Officer. Do you want to give yourself a bit of an introduction and tell us what you've been up to, please?
Yes, hi. My name is Laura Alvarez, and I work for the City Council at the moment. After having been through different areas in industry, my background is in architecture and urban design. But I'm very, very interested in collaborative planning and bottom-up participation and placemaking. And amongst other roles that I have, I'm also curator of the Urban Room, which is a space that opened a couple of years ago in Nottingham. It's a partnership between Nottingham City Council and quite a few other organisations. It's a hub. It's called the Urban Room, and it's in Carrington Street near the station. And this is a hub for everybody that's interested in taking place in conversations, plan projects, do free training, debate, and imagine the future of Nottingham. As you can probably see from the cranes that we have around the city, there's quite a lot going on at the moment. There's a lot of development, and development brings opportunities for change and opportunities to improve what we have. But we want to do that thoughtfully and with a bottom-up approach. So the Urban Room is that hub that offers that opportunity for everybody to participate. And also, we've started to create partnerships to take some of those visions into action as well. And one of those projects to do that is called Co-Place. It operates at the Urban Room. And what Co-Place does is it offers training and a forum, and is a vehicle to put some of the place ideas into action with people or by people. There is a website that you can all go and explore, which is www.co/place.org. But you can also Google Co-Place Nottingham and it will come up. In the CoPlace website, there is a tab that shows you all the different engagement projects that we have going on in Nottingham and how you can take place. There's lots of instructions and things that you can go and have a look in that, and all the activities that we've been doing with children as part of the Urban Room are there as well. And today I wanted to show you some of the findings that we had from some of the groups, some of the work that we did around the Broadmarsh transformation area with a group of students from Cllr School. Now, when we started the Urban Room a couple of years ago, it was always the idea to include young children into the conversations because they are the future and the future is theirs. How dare we plan a city without asking them what is their future that they imagine for themselves? So that's exactly what we wanted to do. And the problem that we faced at the beginning was, as you can imagine, local schools had to work to a curriculum with tight schedules. They had little capacity, not many resources for experimentation and to move away from the curriculum. So we paired with an independent school that is called Cllr, and this school has a community output program as well. So this was a partnership that benefited everybody. And the school facilitated teachers, equipment, and access to pupils to test and pilot all of these engagement programs. And when we found formulae that work, we now are setting them into packages that will be now rolled out across Nottingham schools. So almost a ready-made engagement package that schools can use themselves without having to invest ridiculous amounts of time. So that's coming soon. But what I wanted to share with you is the actual pilot that we did and the results. I'm not sure if I can share the screen. Am I allowed to share the screen? I'm going to try. No, I'm not allowed to share the screen. So I'm going to ask you to go to the CoWeb, CoPlace web. Everybody can look at it anyway. Everything is available in there. Let me try again. Let's see. No. Okay.
Apologies, Laura. Yeah.
Don't worry, it's fine. It's available for everybody to see, so you can go on your mobile phones, on your tablets, whatever, and have a look yourself. Everything is there. So I'm going to describe it instead, which is fine. We can do that. We asked children. We started with the Year 9 students, and we asked them what do they think about their identity, Nottingham's identity, and what made Nottingham what it is. And we found that lots and lots of reference, pretty much everything apart from Robin Hood, was a reference to a place. So what they thought when they thought about Nottingham was either the playhouse, the castle, Victoria Centre, but it was always place referred. So we thought, okay, we have a great base to work on here because people actually think about their city, thinking about the experiences that they had in specific places and moments where they lived there. So that was a great starting point. Then we went to ask to all of the year groups from early years to Year 9. So this is from 4-year-olds onwards. And we asked them, how do they see the future? And it was actually incredible. We were shocked with the answers. But all in all, I can tell you that it was very much towards the lines of they want a city with nature. Grey is boring. They want colour. They wanted very modernistic, sort of something that represented their time in terms of design. And particularly the main thing was having sufficient greenery and a lot of water. Water was very, very high in the scale. They wanted lots of water, lots of greenery, and they wanted to be able to coexist with animals and wildlife. And that's what they wanted. I have to say, a lot of people here are going to be very happy. That was pretty much the trend across the years. And they came up with really incredible ideas of doing glow-in-the-dark swings under the tram and all sorts of things. You can go and explore there by yourselves when you're in your own time. Really fascinating. And interestingly enough, yesterday I was in another online conference by the Academy of Urbanism, and they had this session on future urbanists, which was about children and their vision. And these were children across the country. And I could easily line up the results that I got from the pilot study with what children were saying across the country, what future they want. So that was really, really quite interesting. And there was a different trend. They didn't mention shops at all. Shops were nowhere to be seen, but they did mention food. healthy food, world food. They wanted food as an experience. They wanted to go and eat out on a boat or under a tree, or they wanted to make the eating thing quite different and funky. And they talked about getting together, socializing and eating. And that was pretty much it, entertaining. With the older kids, they had more of a tendency towards replacing some of the play with sports. But that was, we thought this is perfectly natural. Their answers and the balance, it almost reflected their age groups pretty well. So this is why it's important that we ask across all age groups and we consider all needs. I'm going to leave you to explore the CoPlace website in your own time. I don't know how I'm doing with time, but I'm hoping I'm not very late. And just leave you with a thought, and the reason why we created CoPlace and why we're encouraging everybody to go and have a look. Everything is free. You can download all the packages, and then you can submit the outcomes of the packages so that it goes directly to Nottingham City Council. And the City Council will process the results that you send as well as part of the engagement. And just one thought I'm going to leave you with is that the only way to create a city that works for everybody is that we all imagine it, create it, love it, and take care of it together. So you have to go to a place and have a look at all the different projects, not only Broadmarsh, loads of stuff going on, and the more keeps being added all the time. But I'll stop talking now because I brought a very, very special friend of mine from Holyrood School to tell you about her experience. Her name is June, and she's in year 5, and I don't know whether she's, I can't see her, so I'm hoping she's around.
Yep.
Hi. I'm
Hi.
here.
Can we move? Hello, June, you okay? Can you tell people? Yeah, hello. There she is.
Hello. I've written down some things, but I'm nervous.
Of course, we all are.
Please
Do you want
take
to
your
read?
time. Please do take your time, as all I was going to say, and welcome. Thank you so much for saying a few words for us. That's really exciting to have you. Take your time. We've got like a whole 10 minutes left until the people are back from breakout rooms. So yeah, no hurry.
Okay, thank you. Well,
Did you want to ask her questions, or should she sort of start talking?
She can do it in her own time. She can read what she wrote.
well, I read some of the questions and I wrote down some things, well, my point of view. The first question, not sure what it was.
First question was, what did you do at Holyrood in the session with Dr. Alvarez?
Oh, yeah. In the session, we talked about the Broadmarsh Centre and what to turn it into. And we looked at some of Nottingham's coolest places, like some really cool parks, and what would make the city better. Yeah, that's all I've written down for the first question.
The second question was, did you find the session enjoyable, and why?
Yeah, I found it really cool because it was kids getting involved in the big decisions. I was actually do something I felt really important. I saw some really cool things and was asked my opinion of changing the city.
The next question was, why is it important to think about the future of our city?
This one I actually got a bit confused about, but what I wrote down is if we don't think together about change, it won't happen, and we need to do something to make the world better. That's actually all I've written down.
So we sort of thought that maybe the other questions she could answer more spontaneously, if you like.
Yes. Well, however she feels more comfortable. I've got the questions in front of me, but you're doing.
Go ahead and ask her.
So I'm so proud.
Do
you want to ask more questions, or?
Why do you think? Why do you think it's important to ask children about designing the city?
I think because children have quite a colorful imagination. Say they know more about like what they would see fun as what would be nice and what they would find cool and a happy place. I personally find colors would be my kind of thing because I feel like colors makes the place brighter and a nicer atmosphere. But
Yes, that a lot of children said that, June. So that's shared by all the young generation. How did it make you feel having the opportunity to talk about the city and thinking that what you say will be heard and your opinion is important for us? How did it make you feel?
it felt really important. I felt like I was actually going to be able to change something, going to help. And I thought it was really cool to be able to actually change something in the world.
So if you had to change something, what would be the top 3 things that you wanted to see changing?
I would try to make the streets cleaner. I would maybe make more like community centers and stuff. And a third one, I think, like I've said before, make it more colorful.
Brilliant. Thank you so much, June. Is there any? I'm going to have a look at the questions here if anybody is speaking at the conversation. Is there anything else you wanted to tell us, June?
Not really.
Would you like to take part in something like this again?
Yeah, I think it's really cool. I was a bit nervous at the beginning, but it's really.
Yes, that happens to everybody. I do the same. I think everybody that's speaking here feels the same, but you did brilliantly. And thank you so much for taking it and doing it so well. I'm so proud. That was lovely.
Can I say a big thank you from everyone at Green Hustle as well? It's been so lovely to have you and so lovely to hear your views and hear about the work that the hard work that you've already been doing at school on this. Amazing that we're already getting ahead on it. We did promise to let the public have a go at getting involved with this, and we do have a couple of comments from the public that are lined up. So is it okay, Laura? Are we okay to? Okay, we have a first one. It's
yes,
from
yes.
Penny Poyser. Totally agree with Sally. The focus must be on making the Broadmarsh a sustainable heart for future generations. To be a green city is not... Do we have the rest of that comment? To be a green city is not just about bringing green energy, but greening all aspects that put nature and climate adaptation first and foremost. Fantastic comment from Penny there. Thank you.
I think that's the message we're hearing throughout. If I'm honest, I've not heard anything different than that. So yeah. I think we are tuned in with that. It's a communal.
It's been so great, to hear how strongly Sally is advocating for this outcome, and yourself, and that you're already obviously ahead. Apologies. Yeah, I think we may have one more comment. I've been sent it on WhatsApp. Look at all the different technology that we're bringing in here. How exciting. I've also got a WhatsApp from my mum saying that they're having a problem with their breakout room. I'm not sure what they mean by that. Please go and check out Grey Wild's breakout room. Apologies, everyone. As you can see, we've got a lot going on here. This is a super ambitious technical challenge for our guys, so thank you. And we have one also from Sarah Manton, who made an appearance earlier at the festival. Good friend of ours. Why not have a beautiful green habitat at the heart of our city, welcoming visitors, leading to the castle, surrounding the entrance to Nottingham's spectacular caves? The time to make our commitment to Nottingham's green future is now, and it's why we came up with the People's Forest. Cheeky plug, I see you. Hashtag Robin Hood lives. Yeah, we also had Robin Hood featuring not long before this. So brilliant. I think we're all in agreement, aren't we? Basically, so looks like the leadership of Nottingham City Council on board, and I think it's safe to say that great things lie ahead for the Broadmarsh area. But what those things are depend on you. They depend on you engaging with the council. So speak to your councillors. Speak to Sally Longford at Longford. Apologies, and she's already spoken earlier to our future panel, which was the Wildlife Trust's youth group and our young hustlers. And we have her on record saying that you're welcome to drop her an email. So contact details will be available online. But reach your local councillor, work the system. We do have a great city council here, as well as many of the surrounding areas, actually. They're doing great things over in Broxtowe as well, I believe. I mean, Nadia's probably going to know the local MPs better than myself, but local councillors can get stuff done. This is the experience that we've had, and as we heard from Aaron earlier on in the day, he asked David Mellon, who's the leader of Nottingham City Council, about some land that was opposite his place in Sneinton, and he's begun his own little community garden and community growing space there. Change is possible. That's what today is all about. The main thing, regardless of the immediate follow-up on this conversation, the main thing that we as Green Hustle want you to take away from this is that by coming together, we can be stronger. We can rebuild our commonly shared assets. We can build our community. Nadia, what do you think about
well said. And well put earlier, June. I thought that was a fantastic contribution. And I'm really looking forward to working with you and your friends at school to make some of your ideas heard by not just by our council, who's doing an excellent job, but by those people down in Westminster as well.
Those people down in Westminster, eh? What they like?
Those people like me.
Yeah. We're really glad
I meant
to
the
have
government, though.
We're really glad to have people like you trying to hold them to account. But look, we as Nottingham do our own thing. We have Robin Hood spirit behind us, and let's make it our own independent free state of Nottingham. Anyone? No. Maybe going too far.
Couldn't possibly go on record to say anything about that.
No, but we're really glad to have a really great environment around here to work with. So have we got? Okay, fantastic. We've got a little bit more feedback, and so we've still got a few minutes before the breakout groups return to. Okay, we've got 4 more minutes. It looks like we have a few more comments. Now, I'm going to go through these quite quickly. And yeah, so sorry, is this the feedback from the? Is this from the not from the breakout? Okay. Oh, we've got some really interesting stuff coming up. But the I think Lucy is going to be speaking to facilitators to ask them to chip in with feedback from their groups. That was so as long as Lucy's all right with that and facilitators are all okay with just having a quick word about that. But otherwise we can relay some here. Lucy earlier about this, and I think that everyone is on board with it. Yeah, it's been a really long day though. Anyway, we've had a lot to pack into this festival, and this has been we saved the most difficult bit till last, but it's actually been the most amazing bit, and just to get everyone in this format, and then be broadcasting that out to the wider world live is pretty cool. And yeah, it's felt very democratic, and everyone those tickets were open to anyone. They were free. Climate Assembly Nottingham will certainly be trying to do more participative events, maybe like this. We'll maybe be looking at some other localized and slightly different projects. But do stay in touch with us on Climate Assembly Nottingham. Currently on Facebook, but we'll also be branching out to other platforms in the future. You can stay in touch with Green Hustle, greenhustle.co.uk. There is a link to sign up to be a green hustler. And that's basically going to be all about getting involved, getting active, getting positive, making that change happen. We're not sitting around waiting for anyone to do it for us. Basically, we want you to get involved with this movement and to make the change around you that you want to see, and show you really what's possible. So fantastic. We'll be having our participants on the Zoom call joining us again shortly, and then what we're going to be doing is hearing back from what they've been discussing in their breakout group. So really excited to see what kind of answers came out of those questions. I'm sure some very lively and interesting chats were had in there. So yeah, interesting though. So I've got a little bit. So on the question of business, which was how do we meet the Nottingham business community's needs via Broadmarsh in a sustainable way, and whilst supporting our wider economic needs. Some people suggested that successful businesses should be investing back in the city, building more green spaces, and they should be providing the resources to do that, throwing everything that they can, and that should include a physical presence, things like soup kitchens, making sure presumably that the worse off still have access to good quality food, and we have I believe we have them returning now. I don't want to speak too much for people that have been in the groups, because obviously I've been sat here with you guys the whole time and I've been listening to Laura Alvarez. Thanks again to Laura Alvarez. It's so inspiring to hear what the young people have been up to. Wow, like it seems that they're well on our green hustle flex. Anyway, so welcome back everybody from the breakout groups. Whilst you have been having your respective conversations, which I hope you've all enjoyed, we have been hearing from Laura Alvarez and June, who I believe is just 8 years old, and she's been doing some work with Laura in the pilot schemes that they've been doing. And it was incredibly inspiring and insightful to hear what the children of Nottingham have had to say about Broadmarsh, and I can assure you they weren't demanding another Intu Broadmarsh, and it was all very green and lots of play and lots of water and lots of fun things. So that's really, really good to hear. Of course, I'm totally objective about the matter, but I'm going to hand over to Lucy, who is going to guide us through and speak to some of the facilitators from the groups. If some of the facilitators could please give us a bit of feedback on how your conversations went, please. I'll let Lucy go around the room on that, please.
For my screen so I can see it properly. Okay, hello everybody. Great. Well, I was just facilitating in a session as well. We have some really interesting stuff with some really interesting opinions from someone that's an architect about the space, and other opinions. So that I've just really come out of that and I've enjoyed it. So I did that, didn't I? I just spoke and was completely muted the whole time, wasn't I? Did the classic Zoom. Did everyone hear me? Can I get a wave if I was? You heard me. You didn't hear me. Wave if I was muted. Can
I speak for a moment? Lucy, as far as we were aware in the studio, you were muted for all of 3 to 5 seconds. I think it's okay. We heard most of what you just said.
Great. How long will I have to use Zoom that I don't need to keep muting myself? Probably never. Anyway, conclusion, I had a fabulous discussion, and so I'm just going to whip round to, I'm not sure if the facilitators want to summarize what was said in the rooms. First of all, for the people and community, topic, would Rachel Adams, facilitator, like to
Yes, we had a really good discussion. It was a very small group, but we covered an awful lot, and the feeling is that green space has to be part of this project, but also some facilities for business as well. So like this idea of a box park where you can just have containers that are put up round and round where small businesses can sell food or things like that. Also a very interesting idea about a performance space which could be rotated around the different communities of Nottingham, like what different communities, ethnic communities, local communities age would like to put on in a performance, what they'd like to see, so that we can bring the culture of Nottingham alive. And it just went on and on really, but there's a concern about one of the people had been an independent retailer about the cost of things like that, but I guess our business kind of group might have covered that a bit more about how we work with businesses. The biggest thing was that it should be long term. We shouldn't be thinking short term, long term, about the space, about the people of Nottingham and about the environment.
Fabulous. So interesting. Thank you. Chris Ward. Oh, no, hang on. Breakout room 2, Rosanna Wilson.
Hi, Lucy. Yeah, again, we had a lovely conversation with loads of ideas featured in it. Again, it's quite a small group. We covered initially some ideas around accessibility. And one member of our group lives, both our members of our group lived on the Sherwood side of town, but for the elderly community in particular, the sort of the kind of crisscross nature of the city and trying to get down to that side of town, particularly if the library is going to be based there, and how we could think about that more. We talked about the green space element, absolutely, and also the benefits that could be taken from the opportunity to have a better gateway into the city, and sort of start to develop a bit of a vision of what that would look like, which would incorporate cafe culture, leisure, places for people to clock off on their lunchtime when the college is in operation down there. But also, where you could hang out with the grandkids for half an hour and still be able to get back to the other side of the city, if accessibility is an issue. So to kind of have like a grander vision rather than it being something tokenistic. It was said that it could be quite transformative for the city, and that would actually, that thinking that all of those would actually help businesses be more successful and thrive economically as well. So that's just a sort of, in a nutshell, some of the things that we discussed, that mixed use element of the area.
Brilliant.
Sides.
Thank you. That's really in depth, and I noticed there are little crossovers in the different ways that things were discussed, which is actually really interesting as well. So in my breakout room, I was in number 3, but I think the note taker Julian was going to cover it. Give a summary. I can give a quick summary if not.
It's the old trick of not turning the mic on. Okay, so we started off by remembering that this is not actually a new idea. That
Julian, you're on mute currently.
No, I'm not.
No, not on mute.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. So for Nottingham's Millennium bid to try and get money from the government, actually we proposed a very large park at the bottom of the Lace Market escarpment, because that's a fantastic feature when you come into Nottingham. But I think the feeling for all of us, I think, was that this is a fantastic opportunity for empowering people in Nottingham to have a say and an engagement and get involved in something that's really a core element of the city. And its location is really fantastic from that point of view, because it's close to some very large urban areas, and it's the way in which you come into Nottingham, coming through from the station up through to the Market Square. The most significant kind of route, really, a bit like you get in Sheffield going up into Peace Gardens. So it's an amazing space to actually work with. We felt that the existing building, which at the moment is a kind of ruin, actually has a huge amount of carbon already embedded in it, and so it shouldn't just be torn down. Actually, the frame of it could be used as a kind of ruin in which then could be sort of undermined with community structures and new kind of green elements within it to sort of make something that was really interesting and complex and engage people. We felt this wasn't a kind of an either-or space. It could be lots of different things at once. You know, it's a space for empowerment for all of us. You know, making growing spaces, creative spaces, a place for community shops and that kind of thing. And I'm trying to read down my thing. There we go. Learning spaces, training spaces. You know, shops with credit unions in, that kind of thing. And it could also become an important assembly space. We need more assembly and performance space, outside performance spaces in Nottingham, particularly with COVID. You know, it could become that kind of thing. And Etienne mentioned that when he went to the Montreal Olympics, they had a velodrome there, which had been converted into a new biodome space, which should become a centre of community. So it could sort of really develop as a sort of green centre somewhere where you could commune with nature within the centre of the city.
Fabulous. Thank you very much. Very detailed explanations, and lots of actually overlap, even just within the people and community. Lots of business ideas considered across all of them, which is really nice to hear. And so that is people and community. So now on to business with breakout rooms 5 to 7. So breakout facilitator room 5, Chris Ward, if you'd like to give us a brief rundown of what you discussed, please.
Hello, can you hear me now?
Yes.
So actually, one thing to say at the start was that one of us was concerned about the demographic in the meeting as a whole and in our little group. Quite rightly so, and we had a bit of a discussion about how we are all living in rather nice houses and have a particular point of view and don't really necessarily reach all the different kinds of opinion that we need to reach. However, we did have the youngest participant in the whole meeting with us for a short while, June, who then disappeared. She came and then she went because she wasn't really supposed to be in our room. So we did hear from her about Broadmarsh ideas that have been presented educationally by Laura.
Fabulous. So what would you say the summary in terms of your business ideas were?
Okay. Once we had her out and Penny Points of flying in, we talked a good deal about the idea of a food production area. So Broadmarsh is a food production area, urban abundance, and food-related enterprises.
Fabulous.
A very exciting idea, which we batted backwards and forwards a bit, actually, and thought about what the... I didn't have a note taker, by the way, so I was trying to be facilitator and note taker at the same time, so forgive me if I leave some of this stuff out. But it was a very interesting discussion about a very exciting idea, which is apparently being piloted and developed in other parts of the country, such as Sheffield, and which has the potential to be both economically productive and carbon emission reducing, and make
Great.
as a community resource as well. But after listening to Julian, I think we should build a farm inside the new ruin, which we're going to be able to use in this sort of way. We also did a little bit about green walls as well. We discussed
Fabulous.
it. And one other thing was Snainton Farm came up, and that's probably worth mentioning it because we did have a bit of a productive area, but apparently it's not very successful, so I hear, at the moment, but I don't know.
Amazing. I am going to have to move on to room 6, but thank you very much. That is a really good rundown of what you talked about. Okay, room 6, Sally Brewis. Sorry, I'm going to start to be a little bit cut through just in the interest of time to get through this. So breakout room 6.
Okay, thank you. Green was the theme in ours. We were obviously discussing sustainable business and the economy as well. And the conversation started off with one participant who felt, and it was agreed amongst the group, that if we could make a beautiful green space in the centre of the city, that would have wider economic benefits for for the city. So it would draw people in. Those people would spend money in the other shops that are already there, and it would provide that wow factor to really boost the city. There was another theme which was around the fact that actually we should be measuring not just in financial benefits of supporting businesses, sustainable businesses, but actually the fact that by providing this green space, it would improve the well-being and the health of employees of local businesses close to the Broadmarsh Centre, so they could spend time there, de-stress, exercise potentially, depending on how big the space was. So it was just this theme of making sure that we consider other measures rather than just financial. We had a fantastic idea that it was a link through one of the participants had mentioned Robin Hood, and this, I guess, it inspired this idea of robbing from the rich and giving to the poor. So it inspired this idea that actually businesses close to the Broadmarsh often, they may want the chance to give back. So whether that was financially or from a practical perspective, from whether it was employees working on a sort of a community garden. I know lots of organisations do that. Voluntary work is built into their their working practices. So they were some of the themes that were coming through in our discussion.
Great, fabulous. That was rapid fire. Thank you, and some great ideas. So that was room
6.
Thank you very much. So room 7, Angie Plesold.
Hello, thank you. Yes, we had a small group and a wide-ranging discussion, and we thought that there's lots of opportunity for a sort of sustainable development and potential for supporting small startups, as there may be a demand for that in the future, given our current situation. And also things like mindfulness pods and the idea that business will bring footfall into an area to make sure that a green development in the city centre would feel accessible, because there'd be people around with businesses. Yeah, a lot of the things that I think Sally mentioned, we also talked about the possibility, and also looking at developing heritage ideas in that area. I think I'll leave it there. Thank you.
Obvious. No, that's really interesting. Thank you. Breakout room. We're now moving on to the topic of environment. So breakout room 8 with Kath. I'm going to say your name wrong, probably. Sorry. Agius.
Ages. Well done. Yes, it's always said. We had a small group as well, but wonderful ideas. No note taker, so my notes are maybe not as extensive as they could have been. But the image that someone had given when they were speaking about Central Park had really captured the imagination, and having a space that has the elements of both cultivated and a place for leisure activities, but also has that element of the wild as well, was a really common and idea in the group, which had a lot of support. There was a lot of talk about actually how we go about garnering support for this, particularly when there might be a lot of commercial interest in the site. And the people in our group were saying that they've noticed there's a lot of interest for a green space from all walks of life and all ages as well. And we talked about the fact that, when parks were built, I think it was mentioned back in the 1840s, 1850s in Nottingham, when this was done. So actually, it's been done before, it's done again. And then also the idea that this could obviously be a mixed use site. You could have some, green housing on there if it, worked, and the idea that, that would then allow the area to be taken care of and kept an eye on as well. That was India.
Fabulous, thank you. That sounds awesome. Each of these rooms really interesting. Thank you. And then penultimate, Shona Rawlins, room 9.
Hello, yes. Lots of similar questions coming up, similar ideas in our breakout space. I think there was quite a lot of feeling that people who'd come from London and Manchester, that coming into the city, the lack of green space was really, really dragging the city down. So this was a really good opportunity for that. We had ideas for pop-up food, theatre, community projects, all in a green space. Which would be absolutely fantastic. Again, drawing on places like London, where it's very, very common to have that all going on in a green environment. I think one of the things that was really interesting was we talked about the fact that the Broadmarsh, the landscape of where the Broadmarsh is built and using the natural landscape. And the ideas of having maybe a two-tiered space with green on the top, using green architecture, a sort of green roof, and then pop-up cafes and so on underneath, which would be a really amazing use of space. One of the things that we did discuss, though, was I think there's a sense of frustration about how we can actually make this happen. People wanting to find out more about the actual logistics, what's going on, what will be left of the current building, would we be able to use that building, or would it be just completely demolished and starting from a blank slate? And also about how to best actually support or push the council in a greener direction. I think my favourite quote was, "We should do something between petitions and rioting," and where that line falls. And talking about, for example, I think someone brought up Radcliffe Power Station, where there were lots of ideas put forward when that was being demolished or redeveloped, but it turned out that there was kind of already a plan in place by the time all those petitions had been done, and it was more or less ignored. And we don't want the same thing to happen with Nottingham, which I think pretty much sums up most of what we talked about.
Fabulous, thank you. And then last but not least, room 10 with Linda Blakely.
Yeah, we had a wonderful conversation and lots of similar themes, which is brilliant that they're common. I think the sort of consensus in our room was that not so much concerned about the detail of what happens, but really concerned that it is a green space, and the many benefits of that for our city, for the well-being of the people who work and live in the city, for making it a really attractive gateway to people who are arriving in, and certainly would love to see links with heritage, other heritage sites in the city. The idea of live music was also discussed because of drawing in all ages into the wonderful benefits of live music. And we've already got a brass band lined up from our breakout room, so that can go ahead. And the other thing that struck me was that a lady in the room works with students in the business school in our city, and so how can we capture their incredible creativity and brilliant ideas of making it a green space, but also some creative ideas about making it commercially viable at the same time.
Great, fabulous, thank you. Yeah, there's definitely been overlap in all the topics and consideration of business and being able to have income streams across all of them. So I think there's going to be a lot of really lovely conclusions from all of this. So I think that's all of the rooms, Adam.
Am I back in? Yeah, back in. Thank you so much, Lucy, for all your help and mastering the facilitation plan for this. And a big thank you to everyone else behind the scenes as well, technical team, and the facilitator. I was going to get to the facilitators and the note takers, but thank you for the prompt, Millie. Millie was literally on board to just give us all that, and she does a great job at it, and making sure I'm saying all the things that I need to say, etc. Thank you so much to all the facilitators. Thank you so much to all the note takers. Thank you so much to all of our amazing speakers.